After 7 years of marriage, I found myself without a child, and the weight of my mother-in-law's harsh words was unbearable. One day, in a fit of anger, Deborah shoved me and shouted, "You're not a real woman. You can't even give birth." Her accusations cut deep as she labeled me a failure and ordered me to leave the room and sleep on the balcony. The shock of her words left me stunned, but what shattered my heart most was the sight of my husband, Alex, standing silently beside her, offering his support instead of defending me. I obeyed her command, but I knew this situation could not continue. My name is Grace, and I want to share my story, a tale of love, conflict, and the fight for my independence. 7 years ago, I believed I had everything figured out. At 30, I was a dedicated marketing executive, deeply passionate about my career. I married Alex, 34, and together, we dreamed of building a life filled with love and family. Our journey began at a corporate event where Alex's charm and ambition captivated me. Our wedding felt like the beginning of a fairy tale, and we eagerly anticipated starting a family. However, we decided to enjoy our freedom for a few years before taking that step. Looking back, that choice, seemingly innocent at the time, spiraled into years of unrelenting pressure and disappointment. Everything changed when Alex's father, George, suffered a stroke. The family insisted we move into their home in Chicago to help care for him. I didn't want to leave our cozy apartment filled with memories, but family obligations prevailed, and we relocated to his parents' house, believing it would be temporary. Adjusting to life with Alex's family was a challenge. The house buzzed with tension and unspoken expectations, and Deborah, a traditional homemaker, quickly made it clear that I was not meeting her standards. From the moment I stepped into her home, I felt her scrutiny. To her, a woman's worth was measured by her ability to bear children, and since Alex and I had not yet started a family, I became her target. Initially, her criticisms were subtle. "You should really learn to cook better," she would say, dismissing my attempts in the kitchen. "Alex works hard. A wife should support him more." It stung, but I tried to brush it off, focusing on my career and working late hours to prove my worth beyond her traditional expectations. As months turned into years, the criticisms intensified. One evening after a grueling day at work, I came home to find Deborah waiting for me. "You know, Grace, a real woman knows how to take care of her family. I just don't see how you fit into that picture," she sneered, her disdain palpable. I felt crushed. Despite my accomplishments, I was made to feel inadequate. At first, Alex defended me. "Mom, Grace works hard. We're trying to have a baby. These things take time," he would say. But as the pressure mounted, I sensed him succumbing to his mother's expectations, leaving me feeling utterly alone. The breaking point came when Alex's sister, Deanna, returned home unexpectedly, pregnant and recently divorced. Deborah was thrilled, finally, a grandchild. When she announced that Deanna would need my room, I was taken aback. "Grace, you'll have to move to the balcony," Deborah ordered, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. In that moment, the gravity of her words crushed me. "You are not a real woman. You are a failure. You cannot give birth," she shouted, her accusations echoing in my ears. My heart broke at the realization that this woman, who was supposed to be family, could wield such hurtful words. "Mom, that's not fair," Alex protested weakly, but I stood there, suffocated by Deborah's contempt. "You're not a real woman if you can't make sacrifices for family," she spat, her insults cutting deeper than I thought possible. "Alex, please," I begged, desperately hoping he would stand by me, but he remained silent, caught between his loyalty to his mother and his love for me. In that moment, rage surged within me. How could he let her speak to me like that? Enough was enough. I moved to the balcony, but I also resolved to take action. I could no longer support a family that didn't appreciate me, so I withdrew my financial contributions. No more groceries, no more bills. For the first time in ages, I felt empowered, but it was a bittersweet victory. I knew their dependence on my income would hurt them, but I needed to reclaim my life. The tension in the house escalated. Deborah and Alex's frustration grew as they faced financial strain. Their arguments echoed through the walls, blame shifting between them, a reminder of how precarious our situation had become. A month later, both Alex and Deborah approached me with apologies, realizing how much they relied on me, not just financially but for the household's stability. yet my heart had hardened. Their remorse felt insincere, a thinly veiled attempt to manipulate me back into compliance. I had made my decision. The love and respect I once envisioned for my life had withered away. I planned to file for divorce, packed my belongings, and began plotting my escape to New York. I was ready to leave behind a life that felt like a cage and reclaim my independence. Moving to New York was both terrifying and liberating. As I settled into a cozy, albeit small, apartment in a lively neighborhood, I felt a rush of excitement mixed with anxiety. The city pulsed with energy, cars honking, people bustling, so different from the suffocating silence of Alex's family home. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I quickly immersed myself in my new job at a marketing firm, surrounded by ambitious colleagues who reignited my passion. I embraced challenging projects, each success a testament to my resilience and independence. However, even amid my newfound freedom, shadows of the past lingered. I missed the family I had longed for, the love I once believed I shared with Alex. Sleepless nights found me wrestling with doubt, questioning whether I had made the right choice. The scars from my time with Deborah remained, haunting me as I navigated this new chapter. The struggle was far from over, but for the first time, I felt like I was finally on the path to reclaiming the life I deserved. One evening, while I was engrossed in work, my phone buzzed with a message from Alex. "Can we talk? I miss you." A wave of emotions crashed over me. My heart sank at the sight of his name. It had been so long since I'd heard from him, and now I was torn between anger and a deep-seated longing. Part of me ached to respond, to hear his side of the story, while another part urged me to keep pushing forward, to resist the pull of the past. After wrestling with my feelings, I reluctantly agreed to meet him at a coffee shop in my neighborhood. As I stepped inside, I spotted him in a corner, his demeanor a mix of relief and anxiety. When our eyes met, his face brightened, but the tension in the air was palpable. "Grace," he said, rising to greet me as I approached, "I'm really glad you came." His voice carried a sincerity that was both comforting and uncertain. "Hi, Alex," I replied, mustering a smile that felt fragile. We settled into our seats, the space between us charged with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. "I've missed you," he finally said, his gaze dropping to the table. "Things have been really hard at home. Mom keeps asking about you." My stomach twisted at his words. "And what about you? How are you handling it?" "Honestly, it's tough. She keeps trying to convince me to get you to come back. She thinks you're the problem," he admitted, his voice wavering. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. "Me? The problem? Alex, you saw how she treated me. I didn't leave for no reason." "I know, but it's complicated. She's my mom. I can't just ignore her," he said defensively. As we talked, it struck me that while Alex hadn't changed, I had. It was time for me to let go and move forward. "Alex, I'm happy now. I don't want to go back to that toxic environment." His expression fell, and I saw the hurt in his eyes. "I don't want to lose you, Grace. I wish things could be different. It's not just about us anymore. I need to find my own path," I replied, tears welling up. "I can't keep sacrificing my happiness for your family's approval." After that meeting, I wandered through the city, feeling a mix of relief and sorrow. I had finally asserted my independence, yet the pain of leaving Alex behind lingered. The city buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the suffocating silence of his family's home. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Days turned into weeks, and I threw myself into my work. I made new friends who inspired me and encouraged my ambitions. I enrolled in classes to expand my skills, pushing myself further than I ever thought possible. Yet, the pressure from Alex's family never fully dissipated. Deborah called occasionally, attempting to guilt-trip me. "You were part of this family, Grace. You can't just abandon us," she would say, her tone harsh and accusatory. Each call left me drained, but I held firm. "I'm not abandoning anyone, Deborah. I'm choosing to live for myself now." I was determined to protect my peace. One day, I received a frantic call from Deanna. "Grace, I really need to talk to you." "It's about Mom," she said, her voice trembling. Desperation echoed in her tone. We met at a cafe near my apartment. She looked exhausted, her eyes red and puffy. "Mom hasn't stopped pressuring me since you left," she confessed. She keeps saying I'm the reason you left and that I need to convince you to come back. My heart sank as I listened. Deanna, you can't take that on. It's not your responsibility. You have your own life to live and a baby on the way. You don't need to bear the burden of our family's dysfunction. Tears welled in her eyes, but she won't stop. I feel like I'm constantly failing her, and now I'm scared I'll fail my own child too. I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. You're not failing anyone. You have to prioritize yourself and your baby. Set boundaries with her. Don't let her guilt you into sacrificing your happiness. Deanna nodded, but I could see the fear lingering in her eyes. I knew it wouldn't be easy for her to stand up to Deborah, but I hoped my words would help her find the courage to protect herself. A few days later, Alex reached out, asking if we could meet. I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to reopen old wounds, but I agreed. When we met at a park, I was struck by how tired he looked, as if he were carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Grace, I've been thinking a lot about everything, he began. I realize how much I let my family come between us. I should have stood up for you, but I didn't, and I'm so sorry. His apology stirred something within me, but I knew it wasn't enough. Alex, I appreciate your words, but it's too late. I filed for divorce. I need to move forward, and that means leaving all of this behind. He looked devastated but nodded slowly. I understand. I just wish I had done things differently. I wish things had been different too, but we can't change the past. I have to do what's right for me now, I said firmly. As I walked away from that conversation, I felt a strange sense of closure. I had made my choice, and it was the right one for me. It was time to let go and focus on building the life I deserved. In the weeks that followed, I found myself growing more confident and at peace. I immersed myself in my work and even took up painting again. Each brushstroke felt like a reclamation of my identity, a way to express all the emotions I had kept locked away for so long. Then one evening, Deanna called again, but this time her voice was stronger. Grace, I finally told Mom I need space. It wasn't easy, but I did it. I'm trying to set those boundaries you talked about. I felt a surge of pride. That's incredible, Deanna. I'm so proud of you. It's not easy, but it's a step in the right direction. As we ended the call, a sense of hope washed over me. Maybe my journey wasn't just about finding my own freedom, but also about helping Deanna find hers. I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but I was ready to face them. I was finally learning to let go of the past and embrace the future I had always wanted. After filing for divorce, I experienced a whirlwind of emotions: relief, sadness, and fear. It was a tough decision, but I knew it was the right one. I needed to liberate myself from the toxic environment and finally live for me. I had spent too long trying to fit into a life that wasn't mine, and now it was time to move forward, leaving everything behind. The divorce process was exhausting. Alex attempted to persuade me to reconsider, promising he would stand up to his mother and that we could start fresh. But I understood that going back would only trap me again. I told him firmly, Alex, I'm done. This isn't just about your mother. It's about me reclaiming my life, one where I'm not constantly judged or undervalued. He looked devastated, but he understood I meant it. When the papers were signed, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was officially free from a marriage that had drained me emotionally. This wasn't just about ending things with Alex. It was about reclaiming my identity and my voice. Predictably, Deborah didn't take the news well. She called me, furious, accusing me of tearing the family apart. How could you do this to us? To Alex? You're selfish, she shouted, her voice dripping with bitterness. But this time, her words didn't affect me. Deborah, I'm not responsible for your happiness or your family's. I need to take care of myself now, I replied calmly, feeling a strength I hadn't felt before. I hung up, knowing it was the last time I would allow her to manipulate me. I made the difficult decision to cut ties with everyone, including Deanna. As much as I cared about her, I realized I needed to distance myself completely to heal. I sent her a heartfelt message explaining that I needed space to move on. It hurt to let go, but I knew it was necessary. In the months that followed, I threw myself into building my new life. I focused on my career, taking on challenging projects that reignited my passion for marketing. I moved into a beautiful new apartment overlooking Central Park, a place that truly felt like mine. I began exploring the city, joined art classes, and made new friends who valued and respected me for who I was. It wasn't always easy. There were days when I felt lonely and questioned if I had made the right choices. But those moments were fleeting. Each time, I reminded myself of the strength it took to walk away from a life that suffocated me. One day, while walking through Central Park, I realized just how far I had come. I had let go of the pain and resentment that had weighed me down for so long. I was no longer the woman who felt trapped and powerless. I was independent, confident, and finally at peace. Looking back, I see that my journey wasn't just about leaving a toxic marriage or an overbearing family. It was about finding myself again, my voice, my strength, my worth. I had to release everything that held me back to embrace the future I deserved. Now, I wake up every day excited about what lies ahead. I've started mentoring young women in my industry, sharing my experiences and helping them navigate their paths. It's incredibly fulfilling to know that I can use my story to inspire others to stand up for themselves and never settle for less than they deserve. I've learned that true independence isn't just about being alone. It's about living authentically, making choices that align with who you are, and refusing to let anyone diminish your light. I'm proud of the woman I've become, and I'm excited for the future I'm building, one that's truly my own.